Disclaimer. The following video is an accurate description of a disturbing crime in explicit detail. Please, if you are sensitive to disturbing content and or get easily triggered, please do not watch this. Thank you. I just want to start this video by saying that today's video is going to be a bit more in detail and a bit more disturbing because of the nature of the crime. Obviously this is to do with a child, a very young child at that. If you're sensitive to this kind of stuff and you feel like you might have trouble watching it, please, I advise you to click off now, because this is really quite thoroughly disturbing and actually quite upsetting. So you have been warned. If you still choose to watch, then just please be aware that I'm gonna describe every little detail as much as I possibly can. So please just be aware that you've been warned. Kaylee-Jade Priest, toddler allegedly murdered by mother, was dead before 999 call. A 3-year-old girl allegedly murdered by her mother and her boyfriend was dead before the call was made, a court has heard. Kaylee-Jade Priest was found dead at the flat where she lived with her mother, Nicola Priest, on August 9th last year. The youngster, described in court as a happy child, died from serious chest and abdominal injuries. Later medical examinations showed she had also suffered historical injuries, including broken ribs, lower leg fractures and a broken sternum, Birmingham Crown Court has heard. Nicola Priest, 22, and 21-year-old Callum Redfern from Dudley, who prosecutors have alleged was in a close sexual relationship with the child's mother, are accused of Kaylee's murder, and a separate alternative charge of manslaughter. Jurors heard claims that Priest would hit Kaylee around the head and refer to her as a fucking brat, while the youngster was also heard crying in a fearful tone. On one occasion, neighbours in a flat below recalled hearing a bang above and then Kaylee crying, before allegedly hearing Priest say, "I'll just say she fell off the bed." The same residents claim they noticed that when Kaylee cried, the response appeared to be to drown out her crying with music. In a text message exchange on July 24th, 2020, days before Kaylee's death, Priest told Redfern, "I'm gonna kill her because she keeps leaving the living room or going in the kitchen, so I've paled," brackets hit. To pale someone means to hit them. "I've paled her one and smacked her for shitting in her nappy." Redfern replied, "Good, give her one from me." Priest replied, "I will, babe." 3 days later, Redfern messaged Priest saying, "I'm gonna keep the little brat away from me. Sick of your spunking daughter." Jurors heard the Crown's claim that such messages were indicative of the uncaring attitude from Priest and Redfern towards Kaylee. Opening the case on Tuesday, prosecution barrister Andrew Smith QC said, at 11:11 a.m. on August 9th, 2020, Nicola Priest dialed 999 to summon an ambulance to her home address in Kingshurst, Solihull, to treat her daughter. Kaylee-Jade Priest, her 3.5-year-old daughter, was dead before the call was made. The prosecution case is that her death was caused by her having received serious injuries to her chest and abdomen in a sustained assault on August 8th of last year. We're actually going to get deeper into what those injuries are today. There's been a recent coroner's exam and a post-mortem, so they actually know exactly all the injuries that have happened now. I've been putting this together over the last couple of days. That's why I kind of wanted to wait. I wanted to make sure I had all the possible details. So there's that, yeah. The intentional assault occurred when both of the defendants were alone with Kaylee-Jade. He added, Kaylee-Jade was pronounced dead at 11:25 a.m. on August 9th. The prosecution contends the deliberate and awful actions of Callum Redfern and Nicola Priest caused her death, and that they are responsible for her murder. Mr. Smith said neighbours had spoken of hearing parties lasting many hours and more shouting by Redfern, but also Priest, with one resident claiming the tone of her voice seemed angry and did not express love or care. From the time Priest moved into the flat in mid-2019, nearby residents claim they heard her shouting with real regularity at Katie. including comments like "shut up," "go away," or "leave me alone," and never anything positive or kind. I just want to interject here and say, who talks to their children like that? No matter how old your child is, you don't talk to them like that. This is a close to my heart case for me because I have a little sister, and obviously I've had a bit of a troubled past myself, so I've kind of seen stuff like this happen. Not from my mum. My mum's been with abusive partners and, things like that. So stuff has kind of, I don't really want to get too deep into it, but we did have to have social services involvement and stuff like that. So it was, this is kind of similar to me. So this really hits home for me. So if I sound a bit more disturbed or upset in this video, then that's why. In April 2020, the mother of Priest's ex-partner noticed a circular bruise-type mark of about 1 inch on Kaylee's cheekbone. Priest allegedly told her, "She's been a little shit this morning." In early July, a family friend allegedly saw Priest hit Kaylee across the head with the back of her hand and later pulled Kaylee's hair when the child went to get food from the fridge. The prosecutor said that on the evening of August 8th, 2020, Redfern and a male friend went to Priest's third-floor flat with a bottle of vodka. While there, Redfern smoked cannabis and with Priest put Kaylee to bed. Some minutes later, Redfern's friend heard Kaylee whining, calling out, saying she wanted to come back out of her bedroom and carry on playing. As Kaylee's cries continued, Priest's bedroom door was heard to open and shut. The Crown's barrister said about 10 minutes after, he heard Mr. Redfern shout, "Kaylee's been sick. Nikki, let's get her in the bath." Mr. Smith said he heard no more crying after Kaylee had been put back to bed. Priest of Poplar Avenue, Edgbaston, Birmingham, and Redfern of Temple Street, Dudley, are also accused of causing or allowing the death of a child and cruelty to a child between June 12th and August 3rd. Jurors were reduced to tears as harrowing details of 68 injuries suffered by Kaylee-Jade Priest were read out in court. The 3-year-old was tragically found dead in her Kingshurst flat after suffering horrific chest and abdominal injuries in a ferocious assault last August. Defence barristers argued some injuries to the 3-foot 3-inch child, including bruising, were from rough and tumble play. However, pathologists examining her body in a post-mortem counted a harrowing total of 68 injuries, ranging from dark bruising and blue bruises to red marks and abrasions. After hearing details of more than 40 injuries, 3 of the jurors were left weeping, and the judge felt a 15-minute break was needed before the remaining external wounds were listed. Tissues were handed out as the jury saw body mapping images of her injuries, likened to those of someone who had been hit in a car crash or a 15-foot fall onto concrete. Such were the force of the blows, likely kicks, punches and stamps, that little Kaylee also sustained severe internal injuries, including 19 fractures to her ribs, 3 to her sternum, and a punctured lung. I want to interject here and say something else as well. If you are doing this to your child, you deserve to be sterilised. You do not deserve any more children. Do you know how upsetting this is to think of that little girl having to go through this by the people who are supposed to protect her? You're her parents. You're supposed to protect her. That's your job, and you're the one hurting her. This is, as you can probably tell from my voice, I am struggling reading this out. I'm having my own child soon. I've got a little sister myself, and this is just hard for me to read without feeling like I'm going to choke up and kind of, do you know what I mean, like tear up a bit. This is really hard, so I can't imagine what the jurors were going through. I can't fathom what Kaylee must have gone through. For a child to go through something like this is traumatic for adults to go through, but children, no. this is a child should never go through something like this, never. But anyway, I'm gonna carry on with the video and try and keep my personal thoughts out of it. As you know, I always give my personal thoughts at the end after I've read out all the facts. So, you know, if I put a personal thought in after, then, you know, I'd do that standard anyway. I like to give my own opinion after I've, you know, listed off the facts. So, yeah. The next section of this video is 9 key moments during the Kaylee-Jade Priest trial leading to Mum and her lover's conviction. So the first key moment was during the opening of the case. The jury were shown CCTV footage of Nicola Priest and her daughter Kaylee-Jade Priest getting into a lift and leaving her flat in Kingshurst House, which showed her having little interaction with her daughter and paying more attention to her own reflection in the lift. More importantly, perhaps, the footage showed Kaylee-Jade in an apparently healthy state, helping to narrow the time frame from when the youngster could have suffered the injuries which would have led to her death. CCTV from Kingshurst House could also be used to pinpoint the comings and goings of both Priest and Redfern, showing the jury when both would have had access to Kaylee-Jade in her final hours. As you've just seen, that was the footage that they've released. The next key moment in the trial was more information about how Priest would treat Kaylee and also how her lover would treat her daughter. So Priest would frequently call Kaylee a rat and a bitch. There was evidence from others about Priest's treatment of Kaylee, including Lisa Morgan, the mother of her previous boyfriend, who said Priest had called her daughter a rat and a bitch and had slapped her, causing the toddler to scream and cry. Evidence from several witnesses painted a picture of a young mum who had little time or patience for her child. The third key thing in the trial was listed as Priest would never have food in the kitchen. As told by a 17-year-old babysitter who babysat for Priest, she was the first person to describe conditions in the flat where Kaylee-Jade lost her life. The babysitter described seeing Kaylee there, saying her hair was always knotty, so obviously she probably wasn't very looked after or washed. She had ill-fitting pyjamas, and that Priest would never have food in the kitchen. Jurors also heard how Kaylee-Jade's bedroom was barely furnished, with no carpet, which is the first thing that's not safe for a child, no curtains, which is another thing that's not safe for a child, and no light bulb. So this is really equivalent with kind of the average, you know, drug house that you'd see. A lot of them, they're not furnished. I'm not saying that that's what's going on. Obviously, there's no evidence of that come out. But having history with my family and drugs as well, I know what a drug house is like, and that's very indicative of a drug house. So the next key thing in the trial is that it's reported that Redfern didn't care at all about Priest. The jury also heard from Matthew Allport, a friend of Redfern, who had been in the flat when the attack occurred, said Redfern was money grabbing and didn't care at all about Priest, but claimed not to have heard any acts of violence. Priest told police she had loved Redfern, but at trial told the court she had come to hate him and still hated him. This one I don't really understand. Why would you be with someone you don't love? Another thing, there's not actually. I don't know if they're referring to money grabbing as in money grabbing for the child's benefits, but as to live on or buy, we heard earlier how he smokes marijuana. So if he was trying to buy marijuana with that money, he's not really going to be able to get a lot. As far as I'm aware, obviously my child isn't born yet, so I don't know. As far as I'm aware, child tax benefits, or, you know, I'm not sure if it's child credit or child tax, isn't actually that much. It's not a lot at all. The next key piece in the trial. Sorry, I had to go away from the mic for a second there. The next key piece in the trial is text messages that were exchanged between Priest and Redfern, detailing the words, and I quote, "I am going to kill her." Text between Priest and Redfern painted a damning picture of their attitude towards Kaylee-Jade. Messages between the lovers were read out, including one where Priest said days before Kaylee's death, "I'm gonna kill her because she keeps leaving the living room, so I've piled her one." Redfern chillingly replied, "Give her one from me." We've heard this before. His explanation to the police, he claimed it was just something that people say. Now, I don't know about any of you guys out there. I've never once said, "Give her one from me," about any child ever. Never mind my child. Any child. Not even my siblings. In response to his message, the mother said, "I will, babe." 3 days later, Redfern messaged Priest saying, "I'm going to keep the little brat away from me and that I'm sick of your spunking daughter." We've heard about that before. I don't know why you would say spunking. It's got a very weird meaning in the UK. I know it means something different in America, but it doesn't really make sense. And the last thing, key for the trial, Priest claimed Redfern previously assaulted Kaylee. When Priest's police interview was being read out at the court for the first time, jurors heard her allege that Redfern had previously been violent towards her daughter, with her saying he assaulted her a couple of times. I heard him punching her, saying, "Kaylee, Kaylee." In evidence, Priest said she was scared of Redfern and that she wished she had done more to protect her daughter. "I was scared to ask him why he'd done it. That's just how I felt," she said. She said that she had seen the bruises on Kaylee caused by Redfern, but agreed that she did not get any medical attention or call the police. "I said to him, 'She's 3. What has she done to be hit?' It was a warning sign at the time, but I didn't think anything of it." Now, that's not very indicative of a mother. The first thing a mother should do if she feels like her partner might be hitting her children, immediately call the police. And I want to urge you guys, if you know anyone at all, even if it's in your family, do not be scared to talk out. Child abuse is one of the most horrific crimes. The children don't deserve it. If you think you know somewhere that this is going on, please, I urge you, call the police, call social services, call a child abuse hotline. Even if you're a child yourself and you're listening to this now, you know, there are people you can call. Talk to your teachers at school, talk to anyone with authority, and they can give you help to get you out of this. So we have some new information, just came from BBC, literally put up 17 minutes ago. We've got Mr. Justice Foxon, QC, said Kaylee-Jade had been put to bed at about 7 BST while the couple then went to have sex in Priest's bedroom. But like many children for her age, Kaylee did not want to go to bed, but to stay up and play. He said there was no direct evidence as to what happened next, but Kaylee-Jade subsequently vomited repeatedly, later dying of her injuries overnight. The vomiting was the result of the severe beating you were both responsible for inflicting on her, he said. No doubt irritated by Kaylee crying, asking to be let out, it interrupted the two of you when you wanted to have sex. You lost your tempers and were parties to the assault which cost Kaylee her life. A prompt call for medical assistance by one or the other of you would have saved Kaylee's life. The youngster, whose body was discovered on 9th of August, died from serious chest and abdominal injuries. Experts likened her wounds to those of a child hit by a car at 40 miles an hour or falling 3 floors onto a concrete floor. Do you know how hard you have to hit a child to do that? Do you know how hard you have to hit anyone to do that? That is fucking disgusting. That is disgusting. I don't care if you wanted, it doesn't matter if you wanted to have sex, the needs of your child come first. You sign up for that when you become a mother. Simple. That's it. That's all I really need to say. I'm going to say a little bit more about, I'm going to put Kaylee-Jade's fundraiser on the screen now. Be aware, not one penny of it will go to her mother or the man who did this to her. It all goes to her grandmother, Kaylee-Jade's grandmother, to help arrange the funeral and, not necessarily cover grievance costs, because nothing will ever replace, a child, a grandchild. But it's something to kind of ease the worry on her at this difficult time. I'm sorry if I sound upset as well. I keep saying this. This is quite difficult for me to read out. I've got one more bit about how long they were charged and sentenced for, and then I'm going to give a couple of my own opinions, and then I'm going to end the video, and hopefully the next video obviously will still be disturbing, because that's what we do on this channel. I cover disturbing modern cases in the UK, but not as disturbing as this. This is by far the most disturbing case I think I've covered on this channel, and it's actually very upsetting. So I want to get the rest of the facts out now and just end this video as quick as possible. So thank you for understanding. These are now the last few bits of information about the Kaylee-Jade case. Obviously, like I said, this has been hard for me to make. I can't imagine what the family's going through, but we're on the last bits now. So thank God for that, really. So let's get to it. In Redfern's police interview, when he was asked how the girl's death had affected him, Kaylee's death, he replied, "It's not my child. It's not really affected me, and I don't really care." At their trial, Priest and Redfern, who the judge said was the dominant partner in the relationship, each blamed the other. West Midlands Police said it was unclear who delivered the fatal blows or whether they both played a part. Senior Investigating Officer Detective Inspector Adam Jobson from the Forces Homicide Unit said police believed the level of discipline she was subjected to became increasingly forceful and violent during Priest and Redfern's relationship. The mother was also found guilty of cruelty to a child relating to the youngster's previous injuries, though Redfern was cleared of that charge. Priest, who was also jailed for 3 years, to be served concurrently for the child cruelty offence, and Redfern must serve both 2/3 of their jail terms before they can be considered for release. Nicola Priest, 23, was sentenced to 15 years over the death of Kaylee-Jade Priest, who was found dead last year at the Solihull flat where they lived. Priest and then lover Callum Redfern, 22, was jailed for 14 years. He was found guilty of manslaughter. I want to know how the fuck have both of these people got away with manslaughter. This is murder. They've killed a child. The injuries they inflicted upon a child have directly led to the death of that child. I just want to end this video now. This is getting really disturbing for me. I don't want to do this video anymore. I'm literally only doing this to help raise awareness to this. Not at this point. This is personally very deeply disturbing. So I'm going to put the fundraiser on the screen now. There's a link to that in the description as well. There's multiple links to child abuse hotlines and social services in the description as well, if anyone needs those to report, any similar crimes. I urge you to, if you think you know of someone. Thank you for watching this video. Rest in peace, Kaylee-Jade Priest, and Nicola and Callum. I hope you both rot in hell. Thank you.